Sage the Dragon, Episode 4, The Landing. Landing on Earth, Sage reflected, was less a technical challenge and more a social one. Technically speaking, guiding an asteroid through the upper atmosphere was a trivial exercise. Dragons have been adjusting orbital trajectories long before humans had invented umbrellas. The real difficulty lay in choosing where to arrive. Sage studied the planet through several layered displays hovering in the air before him. Atmospheric currents, civilian flight routes, radio transmissions, emergency channels. Humans produced an astonishing amount of noise. The astronauts stood beside him in the navigation chamber, watching the continents drift beneath them. "Could you land somewhere quiet?" one of them asked. Sage considered this. "Quiet," he said thoughtfully, "appears to be a relative concept on your planet." The meteor descended slowly through the outer atmosphere. Outside the observation aperture, the sky shifted from the velvet black of space to deep indigo. Thin wisps of ionized air flickered past the crystal structures growing along the asteroid surface. Inside the meteor, gravity remained calm and steady. The astronauts held onto a nearby railing anyway. One of them glanced nervously towards Sage. "Do you do this often?" "Not recently," Sage replied. The dragon adjusted the meteor's trajectory slightly. The enormous rock responded with graceful precision, gliding through the upper atmosphere without producing the blazing firestorm humans normally associated with falling asteroids. Dragons disliked dramatic entrances. Below them stretched a wide, sparsely populated desert. "Suitable," Sage said. The meteor slowed, very slowly. The final descent felt less like a crash and more like a careful parking maneuver. With a soft vibration, the asteroid settled onto the desert floor. Dust drifted quietly around the crystal formations lining its exterior. Inside the meteor, Sage turned toward his guests. "Well," he said pleasantly, "we appear to have arrived." The astronauts stared at him. "Just like that?" one asked. "Yes." They looked at each other. After 11 months stranded in orbit, the journey home had taken less than 20 minutes. One astronaut rubbed his face. "I'm not sure how to write that report." Sage opened the outer airlock. Warm desert air flowed gently into the chamber. For the first time in nearly a year, the astronauts smelled wind and dust instead of recycled oxygen. They stepped outside cautiously. Above them, the sky stretched vast and bright. Behind them, the meteor rested quietly in the sand, its crystal gardens shimmering faintly in the sunlight. For several moments, no one spoke. Finally, one astronaut turned toward the dragon. "Thank you," she said. Sage inclined his head politely. "You are welcome." The astronauts activated their communication devices. Signals began racing across the planet. Within minutes, radar systems had noticed the object descending from orbit. Within minutes more, several governments had begun asking urgent questions. Within half an hour, the astronauts' return was officially classified as a developing situation. Back inside the meteor, Sage brewed another pot of crystal tea. Humans, he had learned, required time to process unexpected information. He studied the planet's communication networks as the tea steeped. News organizations began reporting a mysterious atmospheric object. Military agencies began analyzing sensor data. Scientific institutions began arguing with one another. Sage watched with calm interest. Soon the astronauts' transmission reached their command authorities. The conversation was energetic. The astronauts attempted to explain. There had been an asteroid. Inside the asteroid had been a dragon. The dragon had offered them tea. Then the dragon had given them a ride home. On several continents, senior officials listened to this explanation. Some believed it immediately. Some believed none of it. Most began forming committees. Sage nodded approvingly. Committees were a reliable human response to uncertainty. Outside the meteor, the astronauts waited for transport teams to arrive. They spoke quietly among themselves. "You realize they're going to ask about the tea," one of them said. "Definitely," another agreed. "And the artificial gravity. And the food synthesizer. And the dragon." One astronaut stared thoughtfully at the meteor. "I'm actually more curious about the tea." Back inside the crystal chamber, Sage placed a small sample of crystal tea into a sealed container. Humans were fascinating. Their species possessed remarkable intelligence. Unfortunately, that intelligence was frequently tangled in fear, pride, and bureaucracy. Crystal tea had an interesting effect on such complications. It helped humans think clearly. Sage suspected that might cause difficulties. He sipped his tea and looked out across the desert. Vehicles were approaching now. Aircraft circled cautiously in the distance. The humans were arriving. Sage smiled slightly. Teaching, he reflected, was a noble profession, and humanity had just enrolled in a very unusual course.